All right, at 6:33, I'm here to call the Whitemarsh Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to turn it over to Fran for the announcements. Fran?
Thanks, JC. The township has learned of a letter sent to a business and possibly multiple businesses made to look like it came from the township. The letter included an invoice. The letter requested a wire transfer as payment for the invoice. As a reminder, the township would not ask a business or a resident in a letter to wire money. Please do not pay the invoice. If you received the letter, please contact the township at 610-825-3535. Be aware that PICO is also having illicit scamming activity, and be careful. Real estate tax bills have gone out. If you have not received your tax bill, please contact the Township Finance Department. Berkheimer Associates, our tax collector agent, will be at the Township Building on April 16th and April 23rd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. to receive taxes in person and answer any questions. And finally, save the date for Township Day on Saturday, April 26, 2025, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Victory Fields. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. All very important information to keep in mind. Do I have a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from the Board of Supervisors meeting on February 13th?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we're going to move on to board discussion items. Review application for SLD number 7-24, preliminary final land development for Gemma Services.
One share.
Okay.
You want me to turn that over to you, Charlie?
Yeah, I'll start off quickly. This
Thank
is
you.
for the property that ECRI owned on Butler Pike. Gemma Services has purchased that property and is proposing to use it as a campus for the Martin Luther School, a private school they'll hear about in a moment. This is reviewed by the Township Planning Commission in January, and they recommended approval of the waivers that were required, as well as of the preliminary and final major land development plan. I'll start a PowerPoint, and Denise Yarnoff, their attorney, is going to kick it off.
Good evening. My name is Denise Yarnoff. I'm here on behalf of Gemma Services. As you can see, our whole team is on this side of the room. I'm very excited to be here. We've been working with the township for the last probably close to a year on this project, and we're very excited that we're at this point this evening. I'm sure you're familiar with the property. There's an office building on the property, and Gemma Services is going to move its Martin Luther King School, which is currently in Plymouth Township, to this location into the existing building. And this application is to request the ability to build a gymnasium addition to the building and other outdoor athletic facilities. As was said, we've been to the various commissions and we've received recommendations, and we have a short presentation that we'd like to do for you if you would like to hear, and then just a short presentation on what the plan looks like, and then we're happy to answer any questions. Okay, great. Declan?
Hi, my name is Declan French. I'm the assistant head of school at Martin Luther School. I think it's really important to understand who we are as you're considering this proposal. So I just want to start by talking a little bit about Martin Luther School at Gemma Services. So you can see here, we currently have 3 locations, but we're here to talk about the 4th location that we're really excited to move into. Can you go to the, great. So just a little bit about us. We've been around since the 1850s. The school opened in 1969, but in 2019 is when we came together and formed Gemma Services. So We have lots of mental health services, we have a residential treatment unit, we have community-based practices. The coming together of the Village and Silver Spring Martin Luther School to form Gemma Services has allowed us to accompany more than 3,000 youth and families in the greater Philadelphia area. So that's a little bit about our reach, but it's really our vision and mission that make us who we are. We envision a world where every person knows they matter, and that really drives our mission that Gemma accompanies people of all ages through life's challenges using individualized data-informed support. And it's really the individualized part that I'm going to talk about as I transition and talk about the school. When students join us, they're typically joining us because something hasn't gotten right in their educational experience. They've experienced trauma, they're not fitting in at their school, they're often seen as the bad students. Teachers are kicking them out of classes, they're not getting the education that meets their needs. At Martin Luther School, we really help them find a home and to reconnect to their education. So I just really quickly want to give you 3 things that I'm really proud about with our school that I think tells a little bit of that story. So there are way more slides in here that I'm going to get to, so I'm going to do a little bit of skipping around. But the first thing, so sorry for the blur that's about to happen. The first thing that I want to focus on is the adults that work at our school. We have teachers and teaching assistants, but it's really the teaching assistants that make our school go. They have great relationships with our students, and we realize that a lot of our teacher assistants, for one reason or another, didn't have the opportunities to pursue a bachelor's degree, pursue a teaching career. So we created a program called the Teaching Apprentice Program, and we connected them with local universities. We funded and we gave time for them to pursue that. And we've had about 10 people go through the program, and they are now currently teachers for us. And that program continues to grow. And that part that's the heart of our school really makes our school go now that they are teaching staff and working with our students. So that's one aspect of our school. I think we have really exceptional staff that connect with those students and help to bring them back into their education. The other part is the results that we have. I think of Martin Luther School as a literacy-forward school. We really believe that if our students are not able to read, they're not going to be successful when they either return to their home district or move on into post-secondary life. Our students have every capability they need to learn, but often their learning is interrupted. It's because they've experienced trauma, because they haven't found the right home at their school. In the middle there, students typically join MLS at an average of 2.4, about 2.5 years behind in their reading. That means we have a really big job to do. We need to make sure that they're making more than a year's growth every year. I'm just going to point you to the number in the top left corner. 49%, that's a number that we're really proud of. Almost half of our students last year made more than 1 year's worth of growth. So we're starting to close that gap for our students, and you can see that on the bottom, the 2 top line numbers. 2 years ago, in 22-23, only 9% of our students were reading at grade level at the beginning of the year. Last year, that number was 29%. And that's because we're getting better at helping to retain those students and helping them to learn how to read and move along in that journey so that when they leave us, they're ready to be successful. And the last thing I want to talk about is it's really important for our students to reconnect to their educational experience in whatever ways we can. So a really important one for us is our athletic program. We're in the 3rd year of a 5-year rollout, but in 22-23, we started intramurals, we had flag football, we had basketball, and we started a track team. We didn't compete against anyone. And then last year in 23-24, we started to compete. It was rough. We didn't win a single game with our basketball team, with our flag football team, with our track team. But that was part of the growth journey that we're on. This year, I'm very happy to be standing here and saying that our flag football team had a winning record, our basketball team missed the playoffs by 1 game, and our track season's about to start. And I think that that growth mirrors all the different parts of our school that are growing. We're here today, and if you ask anyone at Martin Luther School, we're here because we're out of space. We really want to give that premier education to our students, and we're at the point as we've built a high school, we start to graduate students, that we need a new space, and we're really excited for all the things that we're going to get to provide to them here. So you can see that addition, that's going to be our lovely gymnasium with the basketball court in there. We're really excited to provide turf fields with lights. We think that that athletic portion, as well as all the space that's going to be in this building. When I say that we're learning in corners and closets, I mean that literally. We have 50 small groups in the morning that go into every hole in the wall you can find. This building's going to provide spaces that feel like learning spaces. So I'm really excited to share this all with you tonight. If you guys have any questions, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions about the school?
Is there any board comment or questions?
How many students do you educate, and do you expect to expand through this?
Yes, currently we have about 225. We kind of have a trajectory over the next 5 years to approach about 300 students.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, my name is Brian Kelly. I'm a registered landscape architect with Nave Newell, and I'm just going to give you a quick brief overview of the actual redevelopment of the property. So as mentioned, the office building, which is in white here, is the existing office that will be renovated, and in a lighter yellow is the proposed gym that Declan just mentioned. It's about a 24,000 square feet addition on the plan right. And then on the plan left, you'll see a multi-purpose recreational field that will be redeveloping the old rodeo from Lululemon. And in that area, we actually reduced the existing parking field to get a smaller impervious footprint. In that area is where we're actually implementing all of our stormwater infrastructure as well. So that's a very quick overview of the redevelopment project.
I think the access points don't change, and as you can see, there's lots of new landscaping as well.
Thank you. Is there any board comment or questions? Thank you.
So we're happy if there's anything else that we can answer or explain, but we have seen a draft of the resolution, which is acceptable to us. So we would like to request.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm just going to open it up for public comment or questions. Come on up.
Hi, Tom Dahl, Fairway Road.
Yes.
I just have a quick question around the athletic fields. Are they synthetic, or are they natural, like natural grass, as opposed to synthetic surfaces? Because if it's synthetic, does that mean it has to have some type of additional drainage underneath it in order to, because that's a wet area back in that.
Yes, and yes, it is turf, and yes, there is stormwater management.
Okay. And you might not be building the gym big enough, I don't think.
Is there any other public comment or questions? Is there any online, Craig?
I do not see anyone online with their hand raised.
Okay. I'm going to move forward with the resolution. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-08 for SLD 0724, preliminary final land development plan for Gemma Services, consisting of demolition to several outbuildings, repurpose of existing building to educational use, and construction of a 28,150 square foot addition, along with a new synthetic turf field located at 5168 and 5200 Butler Pike, Plymouth Meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. McNally, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Moy?
Yes.
Ms. Terrain?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Chair Toll?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
luck.
Congratulations.
Good luck with everything. Thank you.
Welcome to the township.
Moving on to the review of SLD 1024 Land Development Waiver Request for Germantown Academy to erect a new 6,078 square foot early childhood learning center located at 340 Morris Road in Fort Washington. Charlie.
Thank you. This is a new building that Germantown Academy is proposing. It is replacing an existing early childhood learning center elsewhere on the campus. And this, as you'll probably hear, this is all part of their master plan, which was approved about 14 or 15 years ago. And as you know, they have been implementing that over time. And this is just one more step in that process. This was before our Planning Commission in February, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of the land development waiver conditioned upon getting a grading or earth disturbance permit.
Thank you.
Mike, I will put your PowerPoint up, and this is here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I can't get rid of this one.
While Charlie's putting that up, thanks for having us tonight. My name's Mike Rufo. I am project manager with Germantown Academy. I've been working with the academy and in the township for the past 18 years. As Charlie just said, we started in 2007 in the master plan, 2009 and 10. We're in front of the township for approvals. We had some zoning relief that we needed in land development that as part of that, there was several buildings on the master plan that included a gymnasium, pretty large gymnasium, pool, health and wellness center, synthetic turf, field and sports complex, and upper and middle schools. And then this early childhood learning center was part of a demolition of the lower school and a large addition to the lower school, and then this. So we started implementing the master plan in 2010 and 11. If you recall, we took down the upper and middle school. We reconstructed that. And at that time, we also developed the sports complex on the opposite side of the Wissahickon Creek. As part of that renovation to the sports complex, we reforested. So I'm going to just give you a quick little history. And I know Charlie thinks I'm long-winded, so I'm going to keep it as short as I can here. But I think it's important to give a little background, because I think that, you know, we use our campus as a learning tool. We're really, really responsible with our land, and I think that we've proven that over time. When we developed that sports complex, we reforested 12 acres. We took 3.5 acres of wetland and restored them. There was some irresponsible behavior in the 50s and 60s when the campus was built, and they dozed into the wetlands. We realized that during our planning back then and restored them. And as part of that, we worked with the Friends of the Wissahickon and the native planting expedition included some of the kids and stuff. And we also worked with the township and took the Green Ribbon Trail onto our campus. So all of that, I think that we consider ourselves friends of the township. The township has been great partners to us. We don't intend to stop that. It's quite honest. Since then, we've built in 2017-18, we built a new field house addition to our field house. Our master plan had us tearing the field house and the pool down and building a monstrosity, for lack of better explanation. As we further developed the plans, we've realized that it was more responsible to refurbish what we had and to add to it. And we did that in 2007, 2008. We've done other small projects. We did a field conversion to synthetic turfs right after that. And then the latest thing that we've done that's been substantial was a health and wellness center that took four of our buildings actually, and they were built around a triangle of open ground. None of those buildings had handicap accessibility between their floors and stuff. We decided, as opposed to building a new building, we built an addition in between those four buildings and connected at all four, at actually, I think 9 levels in full over the 4 buildings to make everything handicap accessible. Again, small footprint. We went a couple stories instead of one sprawling. And again, I think it was a responsible approach. What we have here today, what I'd like to talk about, is an early childhood learning center. I think it's really important that we're not increasing enrollment. We're not increasing staff. This is replacing, for the most part, we came, I guess, it's got to be 7 or 8 years ago, for a temporary trailer that we put the 3 and 4-year-olds in, and it's been there ever since. We thought it was going to be 1 year to 2 year solution, and it turned out to be a lot longer. So the campus, the population on campus will remain the same. We decided not to take down that piece of the lower school that we had planned back in 2008 and 9, but we're leaving that. We've refurbished that over the last few years, and this is just a modest addition, or a modest standalone building with a pretty robust playground project around it. So I'll show you, if just to orient you. This didn't work last time either. So the Lafayette is down below. You can see our main entrance coming up into campus. I'm going to be a little more helpful. Coming up into the main campus here, and this area here is where we're proposing the building. Again, Lafayette, and I'm going to point that out because I do have some views off of Lafayette to the building. It's about 220 feet to the side of the building, and then this is a play area here. We're going to repurpose all of this space for a playground, and again, it's pretty robust, natural nature playground. We're using a lot of natural. We do have play structures, but we also have a lot of wood steppers and stones and boulders, and we're going to use a little bit of water, and stormwater management is going to be controlled both underground and in basins above ground gardens. So we're pretty excited about that piece of it. That piece of it is actually the fun piece. The building is really, really simple. It's almost home construction.
Is it turned on the side?
I think so. All right.
There you go.
There you go. So, yep, if you can go back one, you'll did I do that?
I didn't.
All right. My assistant's laughing somewhere about my technology skills. So you'll see the building, it's outlined down there, the proposed 6,300 square foot. It's 4 classrooms. It's got a community room, some restrooms, a couple offices, and an entrance. There's a little bit of a parking lot, 12 spaces to the right of that. And then to the left of it is all playground area. We're gonna have an open field. You'll see we have a stormwater basin right near the cursor there, under the field, and then the playground structure after that. Just elevations of the building, pretty straightforward. These are architectural elevations. We do have some renderings to follow. Pretty simple, 1-story, simple, little residential feeling only because of young children, and it's adjacent to the playground, so we thought it was more appropriate to keep the scale down to their level. There is doors that'll go right outside to the playground areas for the young ones. Again, you'll see perspective 1 and 2, and again, I didn't want to go too crazy, so we have perspective 1, which is off of Lafayette Road. We were asked at the Planning Commission if we could demonstrate what that looked like, and again, we had the perspective 2 is from our parking lot, so it's really irrelevant. So if you see the building in the background, we're about 6 feet, 7 feet below the base of the building. You're looking up the hill a little bit. You have the 2 rows of parking in our parking lot. There's then the bus lane for our drop off and pickup, and then the building on the other side of that. You can see the gray building in the background there. Again, just trying to demonstrate the amount of the grading permit took us into county conservation because of the amount of disturbance to land, and most of that, again, the building's only 6,300 square feet. That most of it is playground area. They're different, you know, the bright green is a little synthetic turf area. The brown is a natural mulch area. The blue is grass and reseeding and stuff like that. And then we have the pink, which is going to be all of the plantings and things. There's a tan in there. It's probably not. There's a couple rain gardens in there that are tan as part of the project. So again, really natural feeling is the hope of it. This is one of the structures. You'll see the wood logs, and there's boulders and things, so we're really trying to play off of the Wissahickon. And we use the Wissahickon a lot when they get older. We're starting in first grade. Can't quite take the little guys down there. It takes them too long to get there and back. So we're trying to create a little bit of that as part of this project. That's all I got. So I got some other renderings and stuff, but I don't know if you have questions.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
How many students will take classes in the Early Childhood Center?
So I believe that it's a maximum of 20 per. It's either 16 or 20. Quite honest, I should know that. I'm not 100% sure. Greg, do you know that off the top of your head by chance?
Depends on the age. Isn't the age
I don't know. We're relocating them from the other buildings.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I go back, the
You have 4 classrooms, 3 4s and 5s?
4 classrooms,
Okay.
a 800 square foot community center.
So maybe 80?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
max 80.
Yeah,
And
max
the truth
80.
is, I think it's 64.
Got it.
I don't want to understate it.
Yeah, no worries.
But there's, down in the corner over here, I'll get a better shot. So all the way in the corner is a couple homes, Pickering House and stuff. That's where they are housed now. That's where the trailer is.
Got it.
The plan is that trailer can go away when this is done.
Is it
Thank you.
pre-K to K? What is it?
So it's early childhood learning, so
Yeah.
pre-K to K is in the lower school. These, I think, is 3
It's
and
preschool.
4-year-olds
Yeah.
prior to going into the pre-K.
Okay.
Got it. Does anybody have any other questions or comments?
You mentioned, I think just now, and also at Planning Commission, that once the students move to the new facility, the trailer will be removed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that a condition in the resolution?
Yeah.
It is, that the trailer be removed?
That specifically is not.
All right,
No.
but you're willing,
Sir,
that's your representation?
Yeah, it is definitely our intent to clean that corner up a little bit. to be
Okay.
honest with you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think that's shown for demolition or removal on your plan either.
Okay.
I don't recall, but I don't think so.
Can we amend the plan to do that?
Yes, we can do that.
Thanks.
Yep.
That would be great.
That'll be part of the grading plan, I assume? Okay, yep. We can do that.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Any comment online?
Nothing online.
All right. I just want to add that I had the opportunity to hike the Green Ribbon Trail through your campus center and beyond, and you've done a fabulous job.
Thank you.
And the connectivity is amazing, so
Thank you very much.
thank you. All right, then let's move forward. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-09 for SLD 10-24, Land Development Waiver Request for Germantown Academy to erect a new 6,078 square foot early childhood learning center located at 340 Morris Road in Fort Washington?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. McNally, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Moy?
Yes.
Mr. Rain?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes?
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Chair Toll?
Yes. Resolution passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-10 for a pass-through indemnity agreement between Whitemarsh Township and AIM Academy in reference to requirements under the RACP Grant funding for AIM Academy?
So moved.
Second.
Charlie, shall I pass this to you?
I'm sorry, this is,
Oh.
this can be me.
All right.
This is basically, AIM Academy got a RACP grant. RACP grant requires the township or local municipality to sign off on that they're in agreement with any projects within their locality. In that agreement, it states that if any money is used for the project that is not reimbursable through the state by the RACP grant, that the local municipality would pay the state back for any of the funds. This is a pass-through agreement between the township and AIM Academy, and AIM Academy has signed off on this, that they will be responsible for any funding that is not reimbursable through the state and not the township. So we're just looking for the resolution to be passed by this board, signed, and then we would be able to sign the RACP agreement.
Thank you. Any board comment or questions? Any public comment or questions? Anyone online?
Nothing online.
All right. Mr. McAnally, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Boyd?
Yes.
Ms. Terrain?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel? Yes. Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Chair Toll?
Yes. Resolution carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to motions, starting with a review of the end-of-the-year financial report for 2024. Mr. Barron.
Good evening. How's everyone doing?
Great. How are you?
Well, and yourself?
Wonderful.
That's great.
As you can see by the numbers, I know I did give a fourth quarter report to you in February and told you I'd be back with a final report because there's a lot of accruals that are done for the earned income tax and things that we received that were really 24's money that we don't receive in 25. So you can see by the report, at the end of 24, we ended with $21,200,000 of revenue and $20,300,000 of expenditures. So we will end with a positive $900,000 for the year of 2024. Just to go over a couple things with you, Fran told me I had an hour to do this, so. The real estate taxes came in a little bit behind the year before, but if you remember when we did the 24 budget, we assessed the Parks and Rec a little higher and lowered the general fund by $130,000. So they kind of matched off that. Instead of transferring $130,000 at the end of the year, we gave the Parks and Rec fund the same $130,000, but through the year. So that worked out. So Tom had no confidence in Craig or I, but I did. So real estate transfer tax was a little bit below 2023, but in 2023, there was a big building sold for $6 million that the real estate transfer tax was came in pretty high, so that we were a little bit less than that, but we did beat budget. And then the Act 511 taxes, the business taxes, mercantile taxes, overall, we were a little bit behind, $322,000. A lot of that was earned income tax was $246,000. And the reason for that is, if I look back at 2023, there was a couple people that received bonuses or extra money, and they had to pay their earned income tax. When that happens, Craig or I will get an email from earned income from Berkheimer saying, they don't tell us who it is, but we received a higher than whatever bonus payment from an individual in your township. I remember getting 4 of them in 2023. Again, we did hit budget for, even though we were behind, we did hit budget for the earned income tax. Business taxes, we were up by $137,000. Mercantile was down a little bit. Amusement tax was up. Local service taxes was down. We adjusted all them when we did the 2025 budget. If you remember, we adjusted them based on the previous couple years of history, so that we increased ones that we thought we could increase, and we decreased ones. One being the LST we decreased, and the LST we decreased when we did the 2024 budget. Licenses and permits were above budget, or above previous year by $70,000, and they hit budget. Building and electrical permits were up. Zoning, rental fees were up by $42,000. We had changed the program last year, increased the rental fees. We had hired an outside firm to go out and start doing the inspections, so we got a lot more money last year than we had in previous years for the rental fees. Fire permits were down a little bit, inspections were down. Interest earnings was up $95,000. At the end of 23, we ended up, I think, a positive $2 million. So that gives me $2 million more to invest during the year, and the interest rates were staying stable most of last year, so that's where the interest income come up. Rental and franchise fees are down. The franchise fees has gone down the last couple of years. Again, so when we did budget for 2025, we lowered the budget less than we would have collected this year to compensate, being short every year. The state shared revenues increased. That is the pension, fire relief, and public utilities. We had kept them budgets the same every year, but we knew that pension was going to go up. So it increased from previous years, but the pension money comes in and goes right back out. Fire relief comes in and goes right back out. And the public utility we get to keep. We did increase the budgets again for 2025. Charge for services were up. That's more escrow fees, zoning hearing. I think Charlie had 20 meetings every month for zoning hearing last year. So the zoning hearing fees went up, and the tax collection fees. We do get paid by the county a dollar amount every month for collecting the county's taxes, and then we put that in that fee. Public safety was up by $34,000. A lot of that was special duty. We had a program that was run at the end of the year. We had our officers out for special duty pay, and we got reimbursed for all that. Miscellaneous was up by $90,000. We had a few police officers out in workers' comp. When we put the money, we get reimbursed for that back in that account. We have separated it in 2025 so I can see how much money we're being reimbursed in workers' comp and not throwing it into a miscellaneous. Another thing we did get was property that we rent out, 429 Bethlehem Pike. We had paid the taxes. I was not informed that they were supposed to be reimbursed. So when I was informed, I sent a bill out to the company and they reimbursed us all last year for 21, 22, and 23's taxes. So that's the revenues. Expenditures, all the departments were in line. I don't want to go over every line. You guys see the letter, but every department was stayed under budget, and it's a teamwork to do this to make sure that we have money left over at the end of the year. So I thank all the departments for cooperating with us, Craig and I.
Thank you, Kevin.
Any other questions?
Any board comment or questions? Any public comment? Thank you, Kevin. Anything online?
Yes, I have Sidel.
All right. Sidel?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sidel Zoe, Harts Ridge Road. Just a quick question about franchise fees. I think I heard the statement that they continue to decrease. I assume these are the fees from Comcast and Verizon. Can you confirm that, and can you explain why they continue to decrease? Thank you.
Yes, that is the fee we get from Comcast and Verizon, and I can guess why they're going down, is people are getting rid of their Verizon and Comcast accounts, and they're going with YouTube, Apple TV. There's many versions out there now. There is now than there was years ago. I think people are just switching over to other events to watch TV.
So the franchise fee is not a fixed fee, it's variable and linked to the number of customers in the township. Is that the case?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. Thank you for your hard work and all the staff that do this. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation from the Abolition Hall Steering Committee to begin the process to subdivide and perform an appraisal on the property at 14 Marple Lane in preparation for the sale of the property?
So moved. Second.
Mr. McAnally?
Yes, at the Abolition Hall Steering Committee, we discussed starting the process of subdividing 14 Marple Lane, which has been in the part of the project since acquiring the property. So we'll go through the Planning Commission and back to the board for that subdivision. We'll also get an appraisal of the property and get that ready to be sold once the subdivision goes through. At the Abolition Hall Steering Committee, there was some comments about the historical value of 14 Marple Lane. So we're going to do some research on that, and we'll have some information prior to going out to bid to sell the property at that time. So we just want to get the ball rolling here, and if everyone's in agreement, we'll start the subdivision process and we'll get an appraisal of the property at 14 Marple Lane.
Thank you, Craig. And I know this takes a little bit of time, so thank you. Is there any board comment or questions? Any public comment? Come on up.
Thank you. I just have a question, Craig, on that piece of property. I went back to it and I looked at it just to kind of see it. To me, it looks like it's a very long and narrow piece of property, right? So if somebody comes in there and they want to purchase that piece of land and they want to raise that building and put another building on there, what would they have to do? Would the zoning allow it for the building to be kind of changed so that the front of the building, for example, might be looking towards Germantown Pike? Well, they're going to take more advantage of that? And if so, like, how would that affect the water runoff into that wetland area that's kind of behind it?
They would still have to get all the grading permits. They would have to go to zoning if there's any effect on the side yards and the front yard variances.
Yeah.
So they have to still go through the process if they are allowed to tear that down and put a new building on there.
Yeah. I'm sure you talked about this at the meeting, but if it were me, I would keep it, and just, raise it or do something with it. I don't know. I hate to give away land that's adjacent to that very historic piece of property that's there. And by the way, the grounds are spectacular. If you walk them, they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Yes, I have Sidel online.
Sidel.
Hello again, Sidel Zove. I was heartened to hear the presentation from the Germantown Academy person this evening, wherein he talked about the private school, having restored wetlands that had been partially destroyed in another era when people didn't think about the value of wetlands in our ecosystem. And it's particularly significant in light of what the township is proposing to do with 14 Marple Lane. There is a large wetland directly behind that property. And I also walked the grounds today, again, with a particular eye toward the perimeter and the specific location of the wetland in regards to the proposed subdivision plan. And very clearly, the proposed lot of just under half an acre extends into the wetland. That's infinitely obvious. And that wetland serves a very important purpose in that community, in that little community in there, in that it serves as a sponge for rainwater. In turn, it supports wildlife and habitat and plants that are particularly suited and only found in wetlands. And this wetland, it was identified as such by the Army Corps of Engineers. And there's documentation which the township has, and I've more recently sent that again to Craig and JC, and copied Laura Boyle-Nestor, who's chair of the Abolition Hall Steering Committee. I am quite concerned about the fate of that wetland. In a perfect world, I would want to see the township retain this half-acre parcel, potentially demolish the little tenant house that's there, which dates to maybe 1840 or so. It's not much of a house, and by Roy Wilson's own admission on the record at the last Abolition Hall Steering Committee, it's a house that he never took good care of, that the Wilsons never invested in simply because they didn't have the money to do so. So it's in very poor condition, which was confirmed by not only the two past appraisals that the township undertook in 2013 and 2016, but also by the conditions assessment report that was done more recently by the township as part of its due diligence process in acquiring the entire 10.5 acre parcel. So what we know is there is a Army Corps of Engineers delineated wetland behind this property, and there are two others on the Corson homestead. We know that the house is in pretty bad condition, and both the conditions assessment reports and the appraisals suggested a demolition would be far more suitable than investing or over-investing in repairs at this property. We have a piece of land that's contiguous to the primary homestead. So in a perfect world, I would like to see the township retain this parcel and restore the wetland. Now, it's not a perfect world, and unlike Germantown Academy, the township doesn't have deep pocket donors by the dozens ready to put money into this property. So at a minimum, what I would like to see is an appraisal done here that considers the possibility of the township imposing a deed restriction. And the appraisal could be done in two ways, with and without a deed restriction. But the deed restriction would point out the existence of the wetland, note that the wetland is located in part on this parcel, and that there be an adequate buffer surrounding this wetland to prevent any further degradation. There has been some degradation by the tenant and by the adjacent property owners. And I understand why. I mean, they've been trying to create a dam so that the water doesn't come up into their yards. There has been significant ponding there at times. So an appraisal that considers the value of the property with a deed restriction that requires adequate buffering around the wetland and gives the township the right to restore all of the wetland, including the piece that flows into the rear yard of 14 Marple Lane. And there could be an appraisal that, an alternative that considers the value without the deed restriction. Again, in a perfect world, I'd like to see this retained by the township. If the house were in fact raised, this would be a wonderful sort of back door to the homestead, making it far more accessible to the densely populated communities immediately to the east. It could be a gateway to the homestead and to the county's proposed cross-county trail, which will come through the adjacent parcel on the Hall land. And I realize we don't live in a perfect world, but at a minimum, I would hope the township could be as good a steward as Germantown Academy with regard to this wetland and use it as an outdoor learning classroom to teach children and adults about the value of wetlands in our ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comment? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the proclamation to declare Friday, April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in Whitemarsh Township?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Do I have a motion to accept the resignation of William Kramer from the Zoning Hearing Board?
So moved.
Second.
I just want to point out that Mr. Kramer has spent 31 years in service to Whitemarsh Township on the Zoning Hearing Board, and we really want to thank him for that service. That's a long time, and we really appreciate that. in such a volunteer position like this. Thank you. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to advertise an ordinance to amend Article 4, Assistant Township Manager, Section 3-31 duties by deleting subsection C, Development Director?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any extra information that needs to be?
Just subsection C just has under the duties of an assistant township manager to serve as the development director coordinating subdivision and land development applications for the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. While subsection A also has directly supervised assigned departments. I just think it is pinholing what we can do for the assistant township manager. We'd like to go out and search for a replacement assistant manager and just don't want to have to have someone come in with zoning and planning experience. So, although they can, this would require them to have that background, and I just want to eliminate that to expand the pool.
I think that makes sense. Any other board comment or question? Any public comment?
Here's your first applicant.
I don't think so. Nice try, Fran. I just have a question. Why delete the requirement? Why not just say it's not necessarily required for the position? Because you might get a good candidate that has that experience
and they can apply. What this
they can apply.
What this is saying is they have to have that experience to apply.
Okay, so you'll just couch the language a little
Correct.
bit. Got it.
That's all it is. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Makes sense.
I'm actually opening it up to more candidates.
I was thinking you were going to narrow the candidate pool by taking it out.
No.
Yeah, as it is, it narrows the candidate pool somewhat. Yeah. Are there any other public comments?
Nothing online.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to allocate funds to Whitemarsh Community Ambulance Association in the amount of $700 for their participation in the annual Spring Shredding Day event held on Saturday, March 1st?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any additional information?
No, this is just for their participation in helping out with the shredding event.
Wonderful. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So moved. Do I have a motion to approve escrow release number 1 in the amount of $1,189,629.11 for S/LD 02-19 to Foxlane Homes at Longfield Farms?
So moved.
Second.
Krista.
Yes, this is, as you mentioned, Longfield Farm, also known as Foxlane. They started construction in 2022 and are now requesting release number 1 in 2025, thus the reason it's such a high number, at $1,189,629.11. And our office has inspected the site and found the improvements to have been constructed in accordance with the plan, and we're recommending this release.
Is there any board comment or questions?
Krista, you show remaining escrow of roughly $500,000. How much, what's the nature of the work remaining?
Correct, yeah, that's things like the final paving, landscaping. They're currently focusing mostly at the building of the homes at this point, and then once that is done, they'll tidy things up. But that'll still be a little ways off. I think they'll be there for a while yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comment? Any public comment? Any online?
Nothing online.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the February 2025 financial report reflecting total expenditures of $1,206,730.96, payroll totaling $653,505.97, and a pension plan expenditure of $0?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'm going to move down to the amended agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the Certificate of Appropriateness for 100 Black Walnut Lane to install rooftop solar panels on their roof surface as recommended by HARB?
So moved.
Second.
Charlie?
Thank you. Harb met yesterday and reviewed this application. You may remember just a couple of months ago, this house, which was built in 2002, was approved for a new roof. They've now come back and with a request to add solar panels to many of the roof surfaces. I think if you scroll ahead, there's a plan that shows the roof. It's at the corner of Spring Mill Road and Black Walnut Lane. HARB did not feel that it was appropriate to restrict green energy, and they saw no major issues with this and recommended issuance of the Certificate of Appropriateness.
Nice.
Thank you. Is there any board comment or questions? Any public comment? Any online?
Online.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve, to accept, no, sorry about that. Do I have a motion to approve the Certificate of Appropriateness for 5 East Germantown Pike to replace the existing wooden porch with a composite deck, ramp, and railings as recommended by HARB?
So moved.
Second.
Charlie?
Thank you. This is one of 2 buildings that is a joint development between 5 and 15 East Germantown. 15, if you remember, has been expanded and renovated and has been before you a year or two ago, a year and a half ago. That project is completed. This is the older building right next to the Hobden House that has been about, I believe about 15 years ago, was completely renovated and has office space in it as well. On the side of the building that you can see in this photograph, there is a porch and a ramp of wood. It is deteriorated. They want to replace the surfaces with Trex and replace the wooden railing with a simple black aluminum railing. This is the ramp that would be replaced. It would also be slightly widened for ADA standards. As I said, it's on the side of the building. As you look at the building from Germantown Pike, it's on the right-hand side next to the parking lot, but it is very visible from Germantown Pike and therefore was in front of HARB yesterday as well. And HARB had no issues with it and recommended approval of the Certificate of Appropriateness. This is the style of railing that they are proposing. It's a very simple railing.
Any board comment or questions? Any public comment?
Nothing online.
None online. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation from the Emergency Services Board approving the proposal from Jerry Ozog, PSATS, to perform a fire and EMS planning study in the amount of $25,000?
So moved.
Second.
Andrew, would you like to come up? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
On February 19th, at our last ESB meeting, Township Manager Craig McAnally made a recommendation to the ESB Board to accept the proposal by Jerry Ozog to do our emergency services study. It started in 2024. We put an RFP out. We had 6 proposals come in. The ESB subcommittee of Chair John Lukens, Vice Chair Eileen Baer, Township Manager Craig McAnally, and myself met with 3 of them that we narrowed it down to out of the 6, all out of Pennsylvania. Jerry Ozog seemed to be the best candidate. He fit every criteria that the subcommittee put forward. We put it out in front of the ESB board on the 19th. We had some discussion. John Lukens made a motion and Chief Chris Schwartz seconded there. We just wanted to put in front of the Board of Supervisors to move forward with this process and start the study with Jerry Ozog.
Do you want to say anything more about the study itself?
It's going to review our emergency services, our 2 fire companies, and the ambulance to see how they can best provide for our township going forward into the future. we're using this to see what the future holds for our services. We have very dedicated volunteers in town, but we just want to see what 10 years from now will look like.
I appreciate that. Are there any board comment or questions? Any public comment? Any online?
Nothing online.
All right, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Andrew. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we have now come to the public comment portion of our meeting. Is there any public comment? Come on up, Tom.
Thanks, JC. I just have a question. As I said earlier, I was on the Abolition Hall property today, and I saw in the notes preparing for this meeting that they're talking about a lot of trees that are included on the property, about taking them out. They might be hazardous, or they might be coming down or something, or I don't know. But to me, I think the ones that are along Butler Pike probably should be looked at and taken out. But the ones on the interior of the property, to me, a lot of them look pretty good. It looked like they were in good health. Now, they might need to be thinned out a little bit. I don't know enough about that. But until there's a plan for Abolition Hall, I would not spend the township money on tree removal or anything like that until we really understand what's going to happen with that property. That's just my opinion. But it looked to me, when I saw all the trees that were painted, like either purple or white or whatever the colors were, there seemed to be a lot of trees that looked like they were going to be taken out, you know? So is it really necessary? I mean, I don't know. But I just wanted to make that comment.
I appreciate it, Tom. Thank you. Is there any other public comment online, perhaps?
Nothing online.
Okay. Any board comment? Any further board comment? All right. The board had an executive session this evening on personnel and real estate matters. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Good night, Whitemarsh. Thank you.